I've been in a plane crash. I'm going to stand here and just scream my lungs out until something improves.
Flight 815 crash landed, but where? There's weird jungle noises and a polar bear. What the fuck is going on over there? Helen
and Alex
will guide you through. If you've seen Lost 20 times,
or if you're brand new,
welcome to our show. It's
Dharma Fish Biscuits. Hello and welcome to Dharma Fish Biscuits, your new favourite Lost podcast.
We're your hosts, Helen and Alex. We're going episode by episode, spoiler-free, bringing you all the hot takes no one ever asked for. We're two friends brought together through the power of podcasting
And television.
And television, because we know each other originally through both listening to and being fans of the podcast Buffering the Vampire Slayer, which is a Buffy podcast. And we both love Lost. And so whenever either of us was like thinking about Lost or talking about Lost, we would like loop each other in. And eventually it just became inevitable that we should start a Lost podcast to share all of our thoughts.
We should discuss it episode by episode.
Spoiler free on a bi-weekly basis. But also I think that we're both people who like really love TV, really love talking about TV and thinking about what's going on in the TV writer's mind and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
We're talking about what we're seeing on our screen, how we feel about it, what it makes us think about, and also just things we find funny about it.
Yeah, this is another big facet. We love to have a little giggle as well. Let's just go through how the podcast is going to work. Number 1, spoiler policy. We are spoiler free, so if this is your first time watching Lost, this is a safe space for you. We will not be revealing anything. There will not be any spoilers. However, we're going to talk to each other as two people who have seen the whole show. What we're going to do is censor our episodes. So if you hear this noise, it might mean that, for example, we're talking about when Michael...
That fucking sucked.
Yeah, that was
rough.
Painful. Can't wait to get there.
So I would say that if you've never seen Lost and you've been thinking, pretty weird that I've never seen Lost, a lot of people say it's really great, and also there was something weird about the series finale, then I would recommend dive in along with the podcast. We're going to keep it all nice and safe and spoiler-free for you, but I'm hopeful that our comments will give you an added layer of enjoyment and feel like you have people around you that you're talking to about all the funny stuff that happens and less funny stuff.
I agree. Also, there is one exception to the spoiler policy, and that is that we will spoil the fact that they were not dead the whole time.
Correct. That is not how the show ends. So if you've heard that, put it out of your mind. It's not true. It's a myth. It's an urban legend. It's a rumor, unsubstantiated. It's, in a way, it's a little bit self-contradictory that we have a spoiler-free podcast, but the name of the podcast is... I mean, it's a spoiler in the sense of, like, it's something that will make sense later on in the show, but I sort of think it's more of a, if you know, you know.
The spoiler is there will be fish biscuits in this TV show.
That's the only other spoiler that we'll allow.
So, also throughout the podcast, we have a few little segments that we will be doing.
We have a few little jingles. Sometimes we have topics that come up a bunch of times, and I'll write a little jingle about them. Or sometimes we have jingles to introduce the little segments that we have in our episodes.
Where can people find us on Instagram, Helen?
At Dharma Fish Biscuits Pod. You can also email us if you should be so inclined. dharmafishbiscuitspod@gmail.com.
We also have a Patreon. The Patreon is free. You can just sign up there, see what's going on behind the scenes. Here is where you will find the uncensored versions of the episodes. When are our episodes coming out, Helen?
Every other week on Mondays.
We are recording this intro after the fact of recording the actual episode. So if you notice a slight difference in quality...
If you notice that my audio isn't shit, but then suddenly it is, I get a decent microphone after we record this first episode.
So without any further ado...
Let's get into it.
We open on an iconic shot. It's a really sort of striking way to open the show. It
Yeah.
also really gives us the impression from an early stage that, like, this is a show about Jack, which I'm against it.
Yeah.
I would say, though, the listeners might not really know at this point that I'm a Jack hater through and through, but I had a real attempt during this episode to rehabilitate him in my kind of estimation of him and try and see the positive sides of Jack. So I think, this could be an
Okay.
interesting extra element that I'm bringing
So
to the conversation.
I think that, I don't know whether it's just having spoken to you and how much you hate Jack, but I actually thought that I took more of a dislike to him in this episode than I normally do while watching it.
Perfect.
He seemed like
Wonderful.
particularly egregiously awful.
I'm honestly thrilled to hear it. But my first thought that I had about him was, you see, there's this long shot, and for those who maybe haven't rewatched the episode recently, it opens on just his eye, real close up on Jack's eye, and then you pull out, you see his whole body, he's lying in the jungle, kind of appearing to be reacting to some kind of traumatic event. It was a plane crash.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. But the first thought I had about him was, like, you can never doubt that Jack is a doctor. He has, like, a doctor's approach to the things that are going on around him. He does this thing where he's lying there that he's, like, kind of flexing his hand. We stay with him for a long time in that shot, just kind of getting up and feeling, his, how am I doing? Which I thought felt quite true to life and quite sort of made sense for him as a character.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I managed to persuade my partner, Connor, to watch this for the first time after many, many years of me telling him how wonderful it is and him being like, I will absolutely hate it, I refuse to watch it. And so I was like, I'm making a podcast, we're only going to watch one episode a week. You can deal with that. And as soon as Jack went over to Rose and started doing CPR, he was like, oh, is this guy a doctor? So that's interesting that you say he has very doctorly mannerisms.
Well, don't forget, he started doing CPR on Rose by absolutely burning Boone and saying, like, you're doing it completely wrong, you're going to just blow air into her stomach. So I think that should have been a key clue.
That is very
But
true.
also, like, imagine having that much, like, passive aggressiveness in you that in the middle of a really acute emergency, you're like, maybe you should give your lifeguard license back.
I mean, also in terms of Jack having real main character syndrome and absolutely fuck everyone else, he like yells at Hurley and is just like, hey, you, do this thing. And I can't remember what he tells him to do, but it's like a complete...
Claire out of the way.
Oh, yeah. And it's like a complete lack of like, hey, I understand, like, it's maybe a life or death situation and you're like, oh, sorry, would you mind maybe helping me? But it just felt so aggressive to be like, hey, you. And it's like, it's all about Jack, and Jack is the main character of Jack's life.
It was quite funny, though, when he said to Hurley, he's like, go take her out of the way so she doesn't breathe the fumes. Pretty legitimate thing to ask for. And then he says, if you need me, just call out for me. Which is, like, talk about main character syndrome. It's just like, just call out and I will hear, I
will be there.
But of course, that's Hurley's prompt to say, what's your name? And he's, Jack!
Yeah,
in his delightful way.
Yes.
Another thing that I noticed, speaking of doctorliness, first of all, he legs it through the jungle. Extremely unclear what is motivating him to run in that particular direction, because at this point he's not hearing any screaming or he's not hearing any reactions. He goes from sort of feeling out his parts of his body and checking that he's okay to suddenly just full speed running at an apparently random direction. But it works out for him. But when he does arrive at the beach, once again, I noticed that he has this moment of kind of just standing and taking it in. I would almost say that he's doing like a sort of one-person triage and figuring out, where do I go first? What is my like first point of call in the various emergencies that are happening around here? And once again, I thought, yeah, that's what a doctor would probably do. They wouldn't just go to the closest person that needed their help. They're sufficiently trained in how you behave in an emergency situation that they would want to figure out the most high emergency, most critical situations and prioritize.
So this does also lead to, I promise I do have my own thoughts, but this leads to another thing that Connor said to me, who is also a medical professional. And when Jack went to perform the CPR on Rose, he was like, this is stupid. Why would you go to this woman who is unconscious? Like, maybe 40 people are alive. Are you going to try and do CPR on all of the 200 people that are dead? And he was like, you would triage everyone and you'd be like, everyone who is alive and needs help, focus on them. And if someone's airway is not open, then you don't focus on doing CPR on them, which frankly is rude because Rose should always be everyone's priority.
I mean, Rose would have died, so we got to let that go. But
exactly. Literally, the second he said that, then Rose started breathing, and I was like, see, it was worth doing CPR on her.
But I have to admit, even I, as a non-medical professional, had that thought. I was like, she's probably dead. Leave her for dead. Like, what are you going to... I mean, obviously it worked out in this case, and thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
But the way that he was like, he spent so much time on it as well, and he was like, come on! It's like... She's just been in a plane crash. What do you expect?
Let her die in peace.
I mean, another thought that I had in terms of, like, why do people do things the way they do in the show and why don't they do them like I would prefer that they did them, is that he kind of does this. We see him sorting through some things and finds the sewing kit so he can sew up his wound. And it immediately made me think, like, I know this isn't the time for it. It would probably come at a later stage. But I wish there had been a bit more inventorying of the various things that were left on the plane, and not to be too dark, but like the other passengers that died, and kind of like, I think we see a certain amount of it with medicine that they
go and collect all the medicines. At one point Jack tells Boone like which suffix to look for on the medicine bottles, and it's like this and this and this is useful. Also, lest we forget, Kate stealing a dead man's shoe.
I mean, we would never forget Kate. It must be a dead woman, I assume, because it was a dainty shoe to fit her foot.
That's true. Yeah.
Women can have hiking boots too, Alex.
Sorry, I think you'll find women don't hike.
But yeah, we see her take the shoe from a dead person, and you can see that she feels that it's kind of sacrilegious or sort of inappropriate. But I'm just thinking, let's get all of her shit. Like
Helen immediately pillaging all the dead bodies.
It's not pillaging, it's inventorying. I want a system. Question. Your plane has crashed. You're on a apparently deserted island.
Yeah.
And you don't have any food. Someone gives you a tray of cold plain food. Are you eating it?
I might move slightly closer to the fire to see if that assists in the temperature of the food.
Yeah, I couldn't help thinking when Hurley gave Claire that airplane food dish, I was like, put it in the fire for a few minutes. It will be much nicer.
Well,
difficult to hold, but
I was thinking that, but also like, what are they normally made? Are they metal or are they plastic? Because if it's okay, but aluminium also then like. The whole thing is going to be like scalding hot, so how would you? I don't know. There must be some
logistical questions.
Some system.
I think I just assume it's cold plain food, and for me that sounds like about the worst thing in the world.
I think it is cold plain food.
I suppose there are worse things, like starving to death.
Well, as Shannon says, at this point we're not starving to death. We can eat on the rescue boat. And Boone had a chocolate bar from somewhere.
Yeah, he just probably had his plane snacks.
Yeah. We seem to have jumped around quite a bit. Can we talk about Chekhov's wing?
Chekhov's wing? Do you mean the wing of the plane that falls down?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. It is very much a sort of action scene for the sake of an action scene, I think.
Yeah. But honestly, what an iconic action scene. Like, the whole of this first, 10 minutes is just... And the whole of the first episode, really, is just, iconic scene after iconic scene and, iconic shots. And everything is just gorgeous and incredible.
It is really, really... I agree. It is really well made. And one thought that I had now, watching this episode for, I don't know, the 5th, 6th time? Unclear. Was that they don't exploit their spectacle in the way they could do. They have these incredible kind of practical sets with these massive bits of plane that if they zoomed out and kind of showed us the whole thing, it could be really like, wow, can't believe they did that on TV. But they choose to give us quite close shots where you don't really you don't see that much of the wreckage in the background, you generally just see the one thing that whatever the person is standing in front of or next to.
Yeah, quite like close
because
detail.
they are keeping us on the characters and on the human experiences that are being had more so than the sort of, can you believe we did this in a pilot for a TV show? And I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, I agree. But it is also deeply impressive. Also, having watched the special features of the Blu-ray, an actual real-life plane, and they were like, we have one chance to, like, bring the wing down because it did, like, fully destroy the wing. So they were like, this is the one and only time this happens, and they had to, like, lift it up with cranes, and then when they were like, okay, let the cranes go, and then it just fell and was destroyed forever. So.
And there was a big explosion caused by... doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Wing fall, thing go bang.
Boom.
Jack, Claire and Hurley all sort of run/fall/jump to safety. Claire lands directly on her stomach.
That has not
She's heavily pregnant.
not be good for the baby.
No one seems to care. Hurley does noticeably rub his stomach afterwards to say like, oh, that was a bit.
Yeah, imagine having a person in there, Hurley.
Yeah.
To be fair, Hurley cares enough to ask her later if there is, quote, any more baby stuff.
Well, Jack, the main character, has a slow-mo moment. He's kind of slightly dazed and wandering around after this big explosion. It is really funny. There are extras literally it's like they've just been given instructions to run back and forth in front of the camera. You watch that scene again. He goes off in the jungle on his own to stitch up his own wound because, you know, the martyr that he is, he couldn't possibly just be on the beach and ask someone for help. Maybe Boone, his newly appointed second in command. You know what? Boone would have loved to help. Boone loves nothing more than, like, being given a job and being told he's a good boy.
But don't be silly, Helen. We need a woman to do the sewing.
Fair, yeah. Here's a hot take. No fucking way Kate made her drapes in her apartment.
Oh, really?
She's not a drape maker.
To be fair, no spoilers, but Kate does tend to lie about a lot of things, so I can fully imagine that the impression of herself that she wants to give you is, oh yes, I sit at home with my sewing machine and make some drapes, so I can see that being a lie.
Well, be prepared with your little spoiler bleeper. But
I always am.
I'm deeply impressed if Kate, having just survived a plane crash, is immediately ready to start running a con. That is just, that my respect for her knows no limits. If that's what she's doing, then
I don't think it's a con to say, oh yes, I sewed my drapes. I think it just fits with this idea that she's trying to show everyone she's just this little innocent girl who can't do anything, and I made my drapes at home.
Yeah, I think that counts as running a con. If you're like, okay, I'm in this situation, let me pick what is the persona that is going to work best for me here and give me the best outcome.
Yeah.
We will see more of this, and I think in the next episode it will become even more explicit for those of us who know what her story will be. It becomes even more interesting. But in this first moment, I was like, is she making a conscious choice here to sort of play a little bit damsel in distress? We see her later in the episode when she does her 1, 2, 3. Like, she's genuinely scared there.
There's no audience there watching her, so I do get the feeling that was probably genuine.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit, like, feeling out how much of Kate can we trust and take on sight at the moment. But
also, while we talk about Kate, did you notice that the very first time we see her as she walks on screen, she is rubbing her wrists? Chekhov's wrist rubbing.
I didn't notice that, but that's a nice detail. Well spotted.
It's a nice detail. Honestly, comedy queen Kate, when she's like, well, when I made my drapes, I used a sewing machine.
That was funny. But I used a sewing machine. I don't know what to do. Yeah, they have a nice little chemistry in this moment. It almost makes you understand why they try and force Jack and Kate as a couple for the rest of the show. There was something rather nice and genuine in their connection there that it made me think of that scene when we get his flashback on the plane and he's doing some really painful, awkward flirting with the flight attendant. He's saying, when she's like, something about his drink, he's like, well, it wasn't a very strong drink. And it's just this, like, really...
Was that meant to be flirting?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was just awful to watch, and it really pained me. And it stood in contrast to the very natural rapport that is between Kate and Jack at this moment, where he's kind of going out of his comfort zone asking for help, and she's going out of her comfort zone helping someone. That's a bit rude to Kate, but she's going out of her comfort zone sewing up another man's skin. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I don't get the feeling she does that particularly often.
I also noticed the kind of early indications of Jack's relationship with alcohol here. When he wakes up in the jungle in the very first scene, one of the things that he uncovers is like, oh, I've got a little bottle of alcohol here in my pocket. We see him on the plane. He gets the extra bottles. He quickly downs quite a strong drink. He has this tiny little plain bottle of vodka that he asks Kate to sanitize her hands with, and then says, "Oh, save some for me." And she gives him a little look, and he's like, "What to pour on the wound?"
Mm.
But I think the way that they sort of stop in that moment is also a little clue to us, the audience, to sort of say, look out for Jack and his alcohol.
That's really curious. I don't know if I've ever really picked up on much of it. Maybe I'm going to be the idiot here. An awful lot of a relationship between Jack and alcohol. Obviously, his dad. I
think he has his own little journey. Although you're right, obviously having an alcoholic father gives you a different relationship to alcohol in general. I felt like the clues were being very clearly signalled here. They're pay attention to this.
Then we just get a series of these beautiful shots, Claire standing in the ocean, Hurley getting the meals out, Locke sat by himself, staring into the middle distance, and it's just once again, iconic shot after iconic shot. And everything looks beautiful. Everyone is just chef's kiss.
The next thing that I remember happening is the night has fallen. He's sat next to a campfire with Kate. He's made a little plane model out of a leaf.
We did miss something quite vital that we have skipped over between Jack and Kate when he is telling the iconic story about the angel hair pasta.
Go for it.
That's it. He tells the story about this angel hair pasta.
Well, he tells a story about his first solo surgery.
Oh, yeah.
On a 16-year-old girl who had a spinal injury.
Yes.
And when I literally just watched the episode, so it's fresh in my mind. And that just as he was going to sew her up, I don't think they call it sew her up, close her up, he nicks this sort of bag. It's not a bag, I don't know, little bag of nerves at the bottom of the spine. And
anyway, the point is the nerves are spilling out angel hair pasta.
Spilling out like angel hair pasta.
And I have no idea what angel hair pasta is, but I never wish to see it.
I feel like I do know what angel hair pasta is just from the mental image of Jack telling that story. I can see it in front of my eyes, and I kind of don't want to Google it to check if I'm right.
Yeah. Also, some more input from Connor. After watching Grey's Anatomy, we should all know that your first solo surgery is not fucking spinal surgery. Your first solo surgery is going to be
appendectomy.
An appendectomy, a whipple, whatever.
Whatever the hell that is.
We're not going straight into spinal surgery, but this is
very
not a
good
medical
point.
show.
Well made. And that is something that we know from Grey's Anatomy.
And then Jack lets the fear in for 5 seconds.
And he has a valuable life lesson for us all, that when you're in a really scary situation, simply count to 5 and then don't be afraid anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, then they get to the campfire, and you're correct. Jack has been having some time for his origami or arts and crafts, making a little plane out of a bamboo leaf.
Turns out he knows everything about everything. He knows everything about planes. He just
took some flying lessons.
He took a few flying lessons. Didn't stick. I saw that and I thought, no, Jack would be a hobby pilot. The Jack that we know, he would love nothing more than flying a plane, and ideally having passengers on board so that he could kind of talk to them and force them to listen to him.
But also, while they are sat there and they're talking about the man who as yet we don't know his profession, and Kate says, he was sitting next to me. Oh.
I don't think that that's done in an ooh way. I think it's interesting that Jack picks up on something in her. She asks, is he okay? He picks up on something there and says, oh, did you know him? There's this tiniest implication that she has vested interest in asking if he's okay.
Yeah.
And that she says, oh, he sat next to me on the plane. To me, that read as quite believable. You know, we were recently on a plane where I sat next to a complete stranger for 10 hours and we became great friends. So I would be fully invested in him surviving a plane crash.
Also very curious that Jack said he blacked out through the whole thing very early on, and Kate was like, I saw the whole thing. So she is the natural leader here, and Jack is absolutely useless.
It's quite funny because I had a similar thought, which was when Jack pulls out his I'm an aviation expert card and starts saying, we would have been cruising at about 40,000 feet when we hit a pocket of air, fell 200 feet, and then this. And I just thought, this is why Jack should have died in the first episode. They build him up as this sort of like everything guy, the hero, the guy who solves everyone's problems and has all the answers. The original plan for the Lost pilot, as any good Lost fan knows, is that Jack was supposed to die, you know, kind of the way the pilot dies, and Kate was supposed to be the leader. And when they did like early audience testing, people didn't like having that bait and switch thing done on them, that, you know, having invested in Jack as a character, to have him taken away, people had a really negative reaction to it. So they're like, okay, well, I guess Jack is just the main character then. And it was a terrible decision that we will come to regret for 6 seasons. But that was a moment that struck me particularly. This would have made that really effective, to sort of say, wow, this guy has, not only is he a doctor, he has all this knowledge. He seems to be really like wanting to like lead people and make plans, and to take that away and create a sort of leadership vacuum that Kate would have stepped up to fill would have just been so much more of an interesting story.
Yeah.
And we really were.
We were robbed.
Yeah, we were robbed.
It would have been really interesting to like consider what would have happened in the show without having a doctor there.
I think the real truth is that if we didn't have a doctor among our main characters, there wouldn't have been so many scenarios that needed a doctor in the plot.
Yeah. And then they get the big noise that interrupts their fascinating conversation. Now, I have some real mixed feelings about this big noise. I just struggle, and this has always been true since the first time I watched Lost, and every time I rewatch it, I'm always like, it feels unsatisfying to me because I can see what they're trying to do, but the sound is the issue for me, in that I can't work out what is diegetic and what is non-diegetic, i.e. what's like score that we're hearing as the audience versus what is the actual noise the characters are hearing. And without knowing exactly what, because like certain bits of it, there's like some sort of vocal sounds and something that sounds a bit almost stringy, and I'm like, presumably that's score music, but then obviously the characters are hearing some sort of thumping noise because they're all looking incredibly shocked and sad. And I just personally find it quite hard to get on board in this particular instance without knowing like quite what the characters are experiencing.
I think the answer probably is that at this point the people making the show didn't really know what was diegetic and non-diegetic.
Yeah.
And the main thing that causes confusion is this kind of, it's almost like a horn kind of sound that's like
yes,
and that could be a creature of some kind making that sound within the realms of reason. It does seem, from the way that the characters respond to the sounds, that does seem to be part of the sound that they're responding to, the way that the show comes across to me. That will simply not be part of the monster sound going forward.
Yes. We'll simply never hear that sound again. But I'm sure they had this all planned out from the start.
Oh. You know what? I'm going to say something in defense of Lost. People who haven't watched Lost, or who've only watched parts of Lost, love to say that, oh, they were all making it up as they went along. They didn't know how they were going to end the mystery, so they just kept dragging them out. It's like, yeah, that is how a TV show works. Generally, you do write it as you go along.
Yes.
And I think it's fine that they didn't know in season 1, episode 1, exactly what the monster was or exactly what the explanation was going to be in the end.
Yeah.
The question is whether it feels like a satisfying and a sort of rewarding explanation when we get there. That We don't need to pretend that TV writers are sort of... They don't have control of their own circumstances. They don't know if they're going to have one season of a TV show, 5 seasons, 12 seasons,
Yeah.
to kind of play with these. And we'll talk a lot more about this, I suppose, as we go on. But I just want to say, in defence of the makers of Lost, they didn't know what they were doing. That's fine.
So it's really interesting because I would agree with you, but there is this belief that, like, in some way people will say, oh, they did know what they were doing. And I think maybe even, like, Damon and Carlton have been like, yeah, we had, like, certain things were planned and we knew where certain things were going. And I think there's, like, quite a lot that they, like, drop in that you can see. Like, even is it, like, in the next episode when Locke is like, there's two sides, there's light and dark.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think everything else was, like, created to spin their wheels until they were like, right, okay, we've got an end point. Let's get into what we wanted to be the ending.
Yeah. We have a flashback with Jack, and I have a few thoughts about this. He's on the plane.
He is on the plane.
He's chatting it up with Cindy, the flight attendant. We don't know her name's Cindy yet, but we
anonymous flight attendant. Watching this with Connor, and he was like, "Oh, what a shame she's dead.
What a shame she is dead, and we'll never know what her name is." Here are some of my thoughts about the plane.
Yes.
Quite surprised that Jack's in economy, and you can tell it definitely is economy, because theoretically they're flying from Sydney, Australia to Los Angeles, California.
Yes, that is a long flight.
That's a long old journey, and these seats are small, they're flimsy, they're close together. There is no in-flight entertainment.
Oh my god. Yeah, I guess you're right. I did look at, this might be incredibly boring, but Connor wanted to know what the model of the plane was, so I did look on Lostpedia at the trivia about the plane, and one of the trivia facts was like, yeah, the plane that they used for 815 was like this plane that was decommissioned in the 80s. So we see in 2007, Oceanic is still flying with this plane, therefore making it the only airline to still be using this plane.
Okay, so they really are the most budget of the budget.
Yes,
they're like this plane from the 1980s is technically still usable, so we're flying with it.
I think that's not a very strong reaction. It's not a very strong drink. Is quite iconic and does replay in my head quite regularly.
But you didn't think it was flirting?
I didn't think it was flirting. I thought they were just having a little bit of banter.
Bit of a rapport.
A bit of a rapport, yeah.
I think, I don't know, maybe it's just my heterosexual eyes, but he really looks like he's trying to flirt with her, and it pains me. The group is all kind of gathered the next day, and Jack has decided that he is going to go on this mission to the cockpit. Kate is going to come with him. He kind of leaves some instructions with Boone for like things to look out for while he's away. And
yes,
Boone,
a curious choice of second in command.
You know what? Boone has never been so happy. Boone loves to be the number one boy. He is feeling very special, very seen. He wants to kind of step up to the responsibility that Jack is offering him. I really see a lot of character in Boone this time around. I think it's easy to kind of just overlook him as being, oh yeah, Shannon and Boone, they're like privileged, rich siblings. Boone has a really interesting arc, and I think it starts off really interesting with his kind of like, he really doesn't have any sort of self-consciousness about letting people know that, like, I really want you to think I'm doing a good job, and I really want to be helpful, and I really want to sort of be valuable. It's kind of heartbreaking in a way. I found it quite interesting.
Yeah.
Time around. We have this little trio of Jack, Kate, and Charlie, which is immediately made weird by Charlie, who is reading in some kind of sexual subtext into it all. I mean, just the fact that they're two men and a woman, he's like, oh, so we're competing for her affections. Got it. Yeah. Which I think was, nobody needed that, Charlie. Nobody needed that energy to be brought to the table.
I also do appreciate him as sort of like a fun time Charlie. Like, oh yeah, I'm here just chatting about my band and singing this song for you. And it is sort of heartbreaking when he's like, you all, everybody. as Jack comes over and is like, "The fuck are you doing, Charlie?"
It's true. He does bring a really valuable sense of lightness, and he's like, "I know what you're gonna say. You think you recognise me, but you don't know where from." Well, they do have a nice little moment, Charlie and Kate, where she's like, "No way! Oh my god, my friend left that band."
Yeah.
And like you say, then serious Jack has to come along and stamp it out and be
Yeah.
like, "What are you
Stop
doing?
having fun."
Fun. I don't know this rock and roll music that you speak of.
I thought Kate saying to him, "Have we ever met anywhere?" was interesting based on like we will see like characters crossing paths in flashbacks, and there were like many a theory of like, did they somehow know each other? Is there some sort of time loop going on? And obviously this was not, I don't believe, actually alluding to that, but it was just interesting that it was sort of like dropped in and people were like, yeah, these people do all somehow know each other in another life.
Yeah, that is fun. I also think it's quite funny, the implication from her side that like, do we know each other? Because you would remember me, even though I don't remember you.
Also, he mentions that the ring is from their second tour of Finland. And I was like, wow, what a specifically small place to have an entire tour. And not just one, but 2 tours of Finland.
Finland, famously a country that loves like metal, which
Yeah.
Driveshaft is not.
I mean, Driveshaft is the obvious Oasis analogy, yes?
Yeah, I think that it's probably best for the show that we don't try and draw that comparison too closely. It's like, I prefer to think of Driveshaft as like a band on their own terms, and it's kind of like, oh, they happen to have a couple of things in common with Oasis.
Okay.
But musically, I think it's quite different, and I don't think Driveshaft is served by the comparison to Oasis.
Yeah. Yes, that is very true. Also, we have yet to see Oasis try and sell nappies.
I definitely think that You All Everybody would have been a one-hit wonder. It sounds catchy as fuck.
Yeah, I think the point, they're meant to have been a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I'm just saying I buy it. I believe it.
Yeah. I think like late 90s, that song would have absolutely banged, and then no one would have simply given anything resembling a shit about anything else they did.
Yeah.
You know who else is watching this conversation? Is the
Vincent.
spooky dog in the bushes.
Vincent was the second character we met. He is crucial to the show.
Yes.
I was thinking in the kind of Kate, Jack, Charlie triad, where kind of Charlie, obviously, although he's a celebrity, in the kind of great romantic struggle against Jack, he understands. He's kind of the underdog. He references it a little bit, sort of later going, yeah, I heard you shouting for Jack. I'm Charlie, by the way. It is quite funny to think that they dated Dominic Monaghan and Evangeline Lilly, because they are such an odd pair on screen together. They don't... Yeah. It's, you know, it's kind of nice in a way to think that, like, oh, yeah, but they actually must have gotten on really well in real life. But it doesn't strike you as being a natural fit.
No. You know what else we have to do when we have a triad of characters? We simply must fuck, marry, kill them.
Oh! It's true. We must.
We simply must.
3 characters in a scene. You know what that means. It's time for fuck, marry, or kill. Fuck, marry, or kill.
I mean, my first clear thought is marry Kate. I think it's quite clear for me it's going to be marry Kate, fuck Jack, kill Charlie.
Curious. Helen Jones does not want to kill Jack.
Helen, the Jack hater, how the winds have turned. It's just very simple. If it was a case of having sex with Charlie or Jack, and bear in mind we're talking about their characters on season 1, episode 1 of Lost, not like the people and everything that they represent.
Yeah.
It's quite a clear choice. And I love Kate, so I'm marrying Kate.
Yeah, I think I would probably marry Kate. She can sew drapes on a sewing machine and sew my skin back together. I would probably fuck Charlie, but also it is curious, now you've introduced the idea that it's their characters as we know them right now, and I'm like, no, not to be problematic, but I don't know if I would want to fuck a heroin addict. But purely on a looks basis, it would be Charlie over Jack any day of the week. Okay, well, it's good to have a variety of opinions, and we won't be fighting over who we're sleeping with.
Just be fighting over Kate hand in marriage.
Yeah.
They get to the cockpit and they climb up towards, well, they get to the part of the plane where the cockpit is. They climb up towards it. Gravity was behaving very strangely during this scene, I noticed.
It was
It was
indeed.
never fully clear what direction they were climbing, because sometimes they would be like upwards, 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 and then they would get to the place at the top and just sit down.
Yeah, I couldn't quite work out what was like the actual angle of the plane versus what was a jaunty camera angle. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I think we just have to deal with it. We skipped over another of my favourite iconic lines, another thing that is emblazoned in my brain forever, which is this normal? The day turning into night, end of the world type weather? And that plays every time it is sunny and then immediately starts raining. That goes through my
It
head.
obviously is also a line that's put in there to make us think thoughts about, ooh, what is this place? What's really going on here?
Yes. Also a very convenient way to have the spooky scene happen in the dark as opposed to the daylight.
Yeah, true. They have this conversation with the pilot who regales them with some information. It was a thought that I had when he says, oh, we had to turn back and try and land on Fiji. By the time the plane crashed, we were 1,000 miles off course. They're looking for us in the wrong place. It's a really effective line. It does always kind of give me chills. And I think it's also really clever the way that it kind of buys the show time. It kind of keeps us occupied as viewers while we can stop asking the question, well, why hasn't anyone come to rescue them? It gives us a tidy answer to that, and kind of gives us a window of time where we can start to think about, oh, what is this place? What is really going on here? Which is what the show wants us to be thinking.
Yeah. And also still allows us to be like, we still don't really know geographically where we are, because even if we want to like plot and be like, well, they're going from Sydney to LA, this will be their path, but then they're sort of heading vaguely towards Fiji at some point, it still like adds this ambiguity of where exactly would there be in this midst of ocean.
Yeah. It's quite smart writing, I think.
Yeah.
It, like you say, it takes us off of the path of wanting to be like, well, actually, the plane would be in exactly this place. And also kind of, buys us this time narratively to let some other spooky shit happen.
Yeah.
And us not just being like, well, the rescue team would have shown up by now.
Yeah. The monster shows up through Chekhov's hole in the window that the pilot is sat in front of.
The monster sort of, takes the body of the pilot, bloodies it up a bit, leaves it in a tree. And the others kind of flee the scene, and there's a bit of a thing about Kate finds Charlie and then says, we have to go back for Jack.
Oh yeah, some more prescient dialogue. We have to go back for him. I also like then Charlie's responses, go back, which I think is also an appropriate response to when those words come back later.
Also a bit prescient, yeah. I'm gonna go right back to the beginning and just say some thoughts that I had about other different characters, if that's okay.
I'd love that.
Shannon, just standing and screaming. She's so
Absolute
determined
icon.
to not be helpful at all. Like,
yeah,
and she,
I love her.
she's committed to feeling her feelings.
I will scream my lungs out to start with, and then I will paint my toenails. I will eat on the rescue boat.
Yeah, she's telling us quite clearly who she is, and for that, you have to respect it.
I do respect it.
We're not supposed to like her, obviously, at this point, but
I love her. I don't know what's happened to me. Like, I've really grown to love this character archetype. Like, the Cordelia, the Lynda, the, like, absolute self-entitled, self-absorbed, could not give less of a shit about anyone else. I love Shannon. She's an icon. She is my queen.
I want to talk about Saeed.
Okay.
We only see Saeed for a short period in this episode, but we see him kind of connecting a little bit with Hurley. We see him taking responsibility for, like, keeping the fires alight, and he sort of starts delegating tasks. Yeah. Saeed, I'm gonna make this point now, and I'm gonna repeat it in the future, and I'm gonna stand by it. He is a natural leader.
Yeah. he should have been the lead. I feel like Jack is helpful as the doctor and he's helping like medically, but Saeed seems much more tuned in to like being actively helpful, because Jack's like, get the transceiver, whereas Saeed's like, no, we'll build a fire because then people will see the fire, and like is much more like hands-on.
He has like an emotional intelligence as well.
Yes. And also like asks people's names. Like when he asks Charlie to help him, he says, oh, what's your name? Whereas Jack famously just says, hey, you.
You're never gonna let that die.
I simply will not.
We see Michael and Walt in a very small scene where Michael just says, so are you warm enough? And Walt sort of indicates that he's okay. And like, it's kind of heartbreaking when you know their story. I mean, there's so much in the Michael and Walt story that really does make me quite sad. But we treasure it while we have it.
Yeah, it is interesting. So normally, I don't know if I've ever really just watched part one of the pilot. I feel like I normally will like do them as a 2-part thing. And it is quite interesting now seeing which characters we don't get very much of in this part, and that it is incredibly Jack focused and like with supporting roles from Kate and Charlie basically, and everyone else is very like, I guess, Boone. Like if you had to pick a fourth biggest character here, it would be Boone. Definitely. Which is kind of insane. And like Sawyer doesn't even get any lines.
But he is smoking, so just to let us all know from the get-go that this is a bad boy we're dealing with. Whereas I saw that and I thought, yeah, they've just been in a plane crash.
Yeah.
No wonder he wants to have a cigarette.
Yeah.
Seems quite fine and normal to me. But he's given a mean look and smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. Smoking a smoke.
We get a quick scene with Jin and Sun where he is instantly established as a villain in a way that will I mean, he says something like, oh, don't go anywhere I can't see you, don't talk to anyone else, don't do what I tell you, basically. Which of course we're immediately like, this guy fucking sucks. And it's it's part of the journey we have to go on with Jin, that the show very clearly establishes him at the beginning as a total villain.
So it is kind of curious because I think there is a world in which it's not because we get such a quick flash that he's not necessarily villainous in that sense, and also we don't get anything from Sun, and I feel like there's a world in which Sun is like, absolutely, you and me are in this together, and we're not going to be taken advantage of by these other people. It's you and me against these people, which obviously isn't what we get because Sun sits there in silence. But I think that it could have been interesting to see it another way, maybe.
I think the scene plays quite heavily into stereotypes about like gender roles in Asian countries, and it's a kind of like it gives us this really short scene, and it's really sort of shorthand for saying like, yeah, well, they're from Korea, so and it's kind of it's got a racist tinge to it, and I feel like we will see this even more so in the next episode when this dynamic is developed a little bit. Yeah, that the show kind of on the one hand wants to give us like a girl power story with Sun kind of doing some defiance against her extremely controlling and conservative husband, but the kind of portrayal of that dynamic is also quite rooted in like racist stereotypes. So it's giving white feminism, I guess, is the overall take.
Yeah, it's also giving...
Not that I would ever accuse Lost of being a feminist show, because by God, this show hates women.
I mean, it's also giving like big lip service diversity as well. And this is one of the things that we will come to as we go through the show. Like, on the surface, the show tries to be like, look, we've got a diverse cast. Rose is black. We've got Michael and his kid. We've got Sun and Jin. Look, it's not all... We've got Saeed. It's not all just white people here. But as we go on, it's like, yes, I suppose you have got some characters that exist that are not white, but...
How are they treated compared to the white ones? What happens to them compared to the white ones?
Yes.
Unfortunately, the show is also, I mean, with all this time having passed, we now know that the show also had major behind-the-scenes problems with the way that the like non-white cast members and black cast members in particular were treated.
Yeah.
So it's this stuff runs deep.
Yeah. It's interesting what we see, like the look on Sun's face, and I found it like sort of, obviously we're watching with the context of seeing the show, but with no context it's kind of hard to read what her expression is when Jin is talking to her like this. And it's sort of like, is she angry? Is she angry that he's controlling her? Is she just sort of like sad? Is she just following him? It's sort of played quite ambiguously and mysteriously, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think also, like, the way that we will get to know Jin as the series goes on, it becomes harder and harder to sort of to accept that he's behaving in this way at this time.
Yeah.
Given how we will come to know him in the future.
Yeah. But speaking of people of colour who we see, Rose is kissing her wedding ring.
Bless.
Our MVP of the show.
Well, I mean,
my MVP.
I'm not anti-Rose, but I think you're the real Rose. Lover.
I'm here for Rose and Shannon, my two queens of the show. the real main characters.
We know, of course, that Rose had a husband who went to the bathroom at a moment of extreme turbulence, which yes, you shouldn't do.
No,
I'm not blaming the victim.
Well,
I'm just saying.
To be fair, I think the turbulence started after he was in the bathroom, because it seems quite sedate at the beginning of that scene when he's in the bathroom.
I like how the pasty British guy immediately asks about sunblock.
Oh yes, that's
Je suis
good.
Charlie in that moment. Locke doesn't have any dialogue in this episode.
No, but he's a incredibly
presence.
Iconic.
And he's an ominous presence. It really made me think about the way that in the very beginning of the show, we don't know if Locke is like a good guy or a bad guy. He has some really strange reactions when he kind of makes eye contact with Kate when she's taking the dead woman's shoes. And first she thinks, oh, this guy is judging me for taking a dead woman's shoes, and she sort of looks a bit defensive. And then he just opens his mouth to it in a big orange grin, and she's like, what the fuck? And is quite alarmed and disgusted possibly by this.
Like, my favourite part of that is that he's doing this, like, unhinged thing and grinning at her with an orange in his mouth. And when she's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's then like, oh, okay, fine. And just, like, pulls it out and eats it like normal. And it's like, I guess you're not on board with me being a weirdo.
Well, but we have a few sort of shots of him where he just is kind of, like, sitting quite ominously on the beach in the dark, and then...
praising the rain when it comes.
In the rain, he's just happy to be there. He's loving it. It gives you immediately a sense of we don't know what this guy's deal is, and we don't know if we should trust him, and we don't know what his motivations or intentions are, and he just doesn't seem interested in being part of the group.
Yeah, he seems very individual, like compared to like Jack and Saeed, who are there like trying to help people. Locke is very much like, I'm taking care of myself. I'm having my own journey.
Yeah, he is having his own journey.
Yeah.
Do you have any other characters that you wanted to jump back to?
Not characters, but another iconic line of dialogue. I feel like I've said the word iconic too many times, but also this is simply an iconic episode. You'd think they would have come by now. Who? Anyone. Ooh. Obviously that's before we find out that they're looking for us in the wrong place. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to point out. The conversation that happens that I think is quite obviously ADR'd afterwards, after the monster in the trees, and then they're having a conversation and Rose says, the noise was really familiar, and someone says, where are you from? And she says, the Bronx, which is a fun little nod to the fact that the little tick-tick-tick-tick noise is famously from the New York taxi.
Yeah, it is clearly a nod to that. It was also, once you know about that line of dialogue, it is quite strange when you hear it, because she says, oh, there was something familiar in that sound. It's a bit weird for your immediate follow-up question to be, oh, where are you from? As if you're going to be able to connect.
Are you from that place that has big dinosaurs?
Are you from the place with the monsters? Because that would explain it. Like, yeah. My final shout out goes to the MVP, Michael Giacchino, the composer.
Oh, yeah.
Already in this first episode, the score hits so hard, and it has so many
Yeah.
like great moments where you're just like, this fucking rules. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another fun fact I learned while looking up on Lostpedia about the plane, they shipped parts of the actual plane to LA, to where they were doing the score, and used parts of the plane as like percussion in the
That
score.
is cool.
Yeah.
Good knowledge.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else from Connor Corner that we want to build in?
Anything else from Connor Corner?
If you want aviation or medical information, welcome to Connor's Corner.
Normally, airplane crashes will continue burning for hours and hours. It's a good thing it went out quickly. It's a good thing all the attractive people survived and all the ugly ones died. Why was the engine still running to blow that guy up? There was no fuel in the plane.
This is what I come to Connor Corner for. This is ideal.
If the tail broke off mid-flight, then you would no longer fly nicely. You would just drop straight to the ground at huge velocity and, quote, they would become a paste.
This is like the Lost Pilot, Connor's version. It's just an hour of a paste on the ground with like a camera slowly panning over it.
Yes. His final thoughts were, there were technical bits that annoyed me, but for a network show, what else would we expect? It was fine. I'll watch another one.
He fucking loved it. That's a
Yeah.
result.
Also, when Jack said, it's like a complicated walkie-talkie, he was like, this is going to really annoy me because a transceiver is not a walkie-talkie, and I bet they're just going to have a walkie-talkie. And then, sure enough, they produce a walkie-talkie.
Well,
That's the end of Connor Corner.
I'm glad that we took a trip to Connor Corner. It was definitely worth it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Based on everything we've seen up to this point,
Yeah.
who are you going to rank as hottest person on the show?
Hottest person on the show.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's going to be like a ranking where people are going to have to move up and down in the ranking. But we got to start with who's in top spot at the end of S01E01.
Okay. And are we talking physically hottest?
You just interpret hottest in a way that speaks to you.
Hot can be physical, hot can be emotional, hot is whatever we decide, and everyone's attractive, but who's top of the ranking? Who's the hottest one on this island?
Okay, because I'll be honest, like, not many of the people in Lost are, like, physically do it for me. So I think I'd have to go behaviourally hottest, and it's got to be Shannon.
Huh?
Absolute queen. I'm not eating chocolate. I'm eating on the rescue boat. I'm painting my toenails.
Fair.
Incredible.
How
about you?
Because we got a little shot of Sawyer, but he has not reached his peak hotness yet.
Yeah.
Cheekbones Boone has never really done it for me. Saeed also will achieve a much higher level of hotness. We have not seen anything yet on that front. Same goes for Jin. I think it's just Kate. She has some really nice moments, and the hotness shines through at a few times during this episode. Top of the hot ranking, we have Shannon and Kate. I'm writing this down.
Oh, okay. So we're keeping a running ranking. That's exciting. Okay.
And that's our episode. Thank you for sticking with us. We hope you continue to listen along. Let us know if you love us. Leave us a lovely review. Don't let us know if you hate us. We don't need that kind of bad energy in our lives.
You can also find us on socials at Dharma Fish Biscuits Pod on Instagram.
We love to receive emails. Our email address is dharmafishbiscuitspod@gmail.com.
And the next episode will be out next week. We'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 2, Pilot Part 2.
This has been Dharma Fish Biscuits. I'm Helen.
I'm Alex. And I'll see you in another life, Helen.
See you in another life, brother.